Well, welcome back. I'm off to a little bit of a slow start this week based on the fact that, well, as you can see behind me, I finally finished dealing with the ceiling. It took a couple days, lots of insulation all over the floor, so I had to get all that stuff out of the way because I was having a hard time maneuvering around here. I was trying to do it a little bit at a time, a little piecemeal, but then I started tripping over everything, so I had to stop and get that taken care of. So anyway, that and quite a few other distractions. So I'm getting a little late start this week, and I'll get you turned around and show you what's been going on, or what's going on, I should say. Okay, so I've got this lock barrel. I want to put that in there and into the door and get that all lined up. First thing I had to do is, because this thing is set up to be held in with a clip, but the clip is sloppy when it's just through sheet metal. This is designed to go through a thick fiberglass door, so I have to make up the distance. So what I've got here is, first I made a pattern of what that is based on the sheet metal hole that I had, and then I laid that out onto some 3/16 ABS plastic on a piece of yellow tape so I could see it real good. And then I drilled the circumference of this outer hole here, which is the diameter of this hole right here. And then went in with an X-Acto knife and cut out these little notches. Now what I'll do is I'll push this through, and I will trace the outside of this over here, and then I'll slowly cut away the material to create a washer that'll build that up so that the clip will work. Anyway, that's what I'm up to right now. Just so you could see, this is pushed through that plastic now and registered on those little cutouts. And then I've gone ahead and I've traced out this outer with a fine tip Sharpie. And then I'll pop this back out, cut that out, and that'll give me my spacing, hopefully, to allow the clip to hold that in place nice and firm. Okay, so here it is, the key barrel's in. I decided to put that ring on the back side because it caused this to bulge out too far, almost as if I was, didn't have this indention in here at all. So I really didn't need to trace that close around the perimeter. And when I come into the final assembly here, I'll probably make another one that's got more surface area for that. You can hardly, let me see if I can get the light up in there for you. See this, there's a clip, a white metal clip right there, right here. Goes around either side, right around here. Shoves up through these grooves and holds it in there. So to give that a little more surface area, I'll probably make something with the same hole, but a square patch, so that that clip bears on a little bit better than that circle. Anyway, that's where I'm at with that. All right, so I've been working away making this other side, and got that installed. Got the latch plate installed over here. A little bit easier when you know where you're going based on the other side. I always make the mistake of doing the driver's side first, and it's always a little horsed up. But this time I decided to do the driver's side second. I still got to adjust one of these holes, gap this out a little bit better over here relative to this. But that's what I was talking about instead of making that tight ring around the key barrel. Since it's gone on the back side now, you can see I just needed something to take up 3/16 of an inch spacing here. The clip on the back side to hold it tight against the skin. As you can see, there's just a little bit of prominence, just about enough for the sheet metal that's in the keyhole itself. So just a square of 3/16 or 3/32 ABS, and that takes up the space and mimics what's in the Camino. Anyway, gonna put this in next. All right, I didn't want to drag you through the whole situation again, but I've got the this side done as far as the latch and the door jamb, and the key barrel's all set now. And I had to do some little alterations in the actual. There's a little lever here don't know if you can see it here. Let me see if I can turn on some light here. Here, you see this little lever here? It was much longer, and because of the way this is, the Camino doors came out like this. So everything here was tilted up. So once I stood everything up straighter to match into this door, this lever stuck out too far and the rods wouldn't work. They wouldn't clear the latch. So everything's been moved in, and so now that all works, and just a minor inconvenience there of having to pull that all back out and cut those on both sides of the car. But at any rate, I have one more little patch on the other side that I forgot, that there was a little piece here that was connected to the El Camino. It was a retractor for the seat belts that I'm not going to use, obviously. I have to do that on the other side. Now what I have to do is I have to, in order to finish the latching system, I have to position the rods that go on the inside here for the internals. So in order to get those placed, I have to start deconstructing the door panels themselves. But before I can do that, I have to put at least the dash shell in to see if there's going to be any interference, because this is a little narrower than the Camino at the top here. See what that's going to be, see what I have to do to the dashboard, see how it's going to interface with the this door here. And so the dash has to go in first. Before I can do that, I have to come up with a device where I can put the dash in without having to, you know, manhandle it. I've got something in mind for that. So dash first, or dash device first, then the dash goes in, at least the frame of it. Then I have to modify the door panels, and from there I'll be able to map out where the rods go and the opening mechanism for the door, and then that'll complete the latch system. Also, I'll probably have to put the seats in, or put at least this seat in, to see if, now that this is just slightly narrower than the Camino, how these door panels, if they'll interfere with the sides of the seats, because the width is just a little bit, it's not that much, but it's always good to double check. Anyway, that's where I'm taking it from here. All right, so this is my first attempt at making a rig to put in here, and as I'm doing it, I'm realizing the doors are on the car. Might not be able to get the doors open wide enough to actually use this without creating a pivot point right here where I could turn this thing and kind of go in on an angle. So I'm going to attempt to put it in with this right now, and if I have to, I'll take it apart and modify it and put a pivot point, and it's where I can swing it around. But I basically just got a couple of pieces of 1x1 through bolted through the metal subframe on either side, and this thing here, just keep it tight. You know, I can manage the angle with it a little bit there. I don't know how it's all going to go in as far as how it's tilted. That's going to be a problem. But it beats having to try to hold the darn thing up. Even without anything in this dashboard, these darn dashboards on a modern car are just so heavy because everything's attached to them. I mean, the entirety of the... let me show you what was attached to it right here. No way to unplug this, by the way. You know, on the Chryslers, they've got multiple, gang plugs that you can unplug each sub harness from. This thing here goes from the front of the car to the back of the car, up through the dash, wound through the dash, goes through the doors without any plugs to plug the doors in. You got to weave this whole thing in, dashboard and everything, and it is a nightmare as far as the weight is concerned, and it's got a million little boxes and plugs to get caught on everything, so good times. At any rate, that's my latest struggle. Well, I'm not celebrating yet because I'm not home free yet, but seem to be able to just weave it around the door itself and then get it all the way in there. And got it started on the two studs on the bottom. Now I'm unbolting it from this rig, and I'm going to rock it up into position. Hopefully it doesn't have to be trimmed too much. I anticipate some trimming, but we'll see what happens. Anyway, that's where I'm at. All right. Fortunately, I didn't have to trim anything. Just had to pull it in a little bit here, tuck this in. Hopefully there won't be anything inside, the fuse box or anything like that. It'll create any problems for me once I get get it all decked out with the wiring harness and everything, go back in for the final time. My main concern, like I said, still working on the doors. And my main concern is how much room do I have right there. And that's pretty much the bare minimum. That's probably about 3/8 of an inch. It's a little wider on the other side, but not much. But fortunately, I don't have to cut any of the air conditioning ducts or anything like that. They all still exit at the base of the A-posts right there where they're supposed to. I have a little custom work to do there to blend those into the A-posts. And this tells me what I need to do as far as making a panel that's going to make up the difference between here and the El Camino deck here. But that's for a later date. Like I said, I want to concentrate on seeing exactly where the bottom of the door panel is going to be and how that's going to interfere with any of these, indentions and mount points for my window tracks and things like that, and see if I can't route the rods that control the locks and the door opening from the inside, and see how that all goes. Anyway, that worked out a lot easier than I thought it would. I'm going to have to make some modifications to the rig a little bit, probably when I go to put it back in, because it was a little bit of a hassle. Probably have to put these, take a little bit out of here and drop these down and kind of put an angle on them a little bit to match the angle that it is actually in the car. The other thing I'm going to do is, which I was just rushing, is you can see what happens when you try to tighten something down without a spreader tube in here. See how it's collapsing the wall on this pipe? Well, that keeps it, especially when it's got a lot of weight on it, it keeps it from really tightening up to where you need it to. So I'll put a spreader tube in there and put some angle in these before I use this thing for the final install way down the road. Anyway, that's that. All right, so I'm wanting to finish out putting the rods in that open the door and lock the door to come across the door over here. So in order to do that, I have to find out where the door panel is going to be positioned. And the first thing I had to do is I put this molding that came out of the Camino. I cut it off, the part that went up to the T-top, down across here. I had to do a little modification here, which worked to my benefit. Basically, to get this molding in here to maximize it and fit the door panel. I had to move this ahead about 1.25 inches, this opening, which I like a lot better than what I had going on there, which I was looking to match the Camino to use the inner panel over here, which I'll have to make something custom for the kick panel or modify the kick panel, which I was going to have to do anyway. But so I've got this molding in here covering the pinch weld. So I'll have to do some kind of a excuse me, a threshold here to hold the carpet, based on the fact that the threshold held the carpet down before on the Camino. Anyway, a lot of things to consider here. This is a little bit better too because the dash is just slightly wider, and this just allows the dash to relax to come out because now it's out in front over here. So I'll fill this up here with something. Probably, hopefully, I have somewhere this molding to go all the way up to the bottom of the A-post. At any rate, I have the door panel over here, and I've taken the top piece off, which is the wrong shape anyway. Just want this bottom piece here because it has the handles and the lock to open the door. So that'll position, once I get this panel in, it'll show me exactly where the rods have to go and in relationship to the latch mechanism. I'm doing something a little unorthodox here. This piece I've made up. It's about 1.25 inches by 3/8 of an inch, and hopefully I'll be able to slide the door panel down and into it instead of trying to screw it through the face or try to figure out some clip system. This holds this door panel out far enough that you can see this panel right here, this carpet panel, went into the recess, which means this is about an inch and an eighth above the surface here when it sits flat, because this protruded inside the door, which I don't have room to do that on the El Camino door. So I have to start out with everything flush. Unfortunately, there's not enough room for the speaker and the inside the door, so I may end up having to build a box slightly out to put the speaker in over here, because this is right where the window motor is in the El Camino, so there's no way to cut a cavity out to put that speaker in there. Anyway, I'm going to try and fit this all up in the opening, and we'll see how that goes. All right, in order to space this this piece up onto the door where I want it, I put some 3/16 spacers here, and then I set this piece, close the door, and then I set this piece on these spacers, making sure it was gapped at least 3/16 front and rear. And then I went ahead and marked it on the door here where it went, and then I went ahead and scuffed the paint off right here where you know, it's going to weld to the door. And it actually came in a little lower than this little rise here. You see this little rise around the edge over here for the El Camino door panel. Anyway, I'm going to fit that in just on this side. So I raised it up just a little bit more, which you won't even notice that a little bit. It'll come in right around here. It doesn't go all the way to the end, obviously, because it's different. But anyway, it nestles pretty good in here, and I'll tack it in there, and then hopefully the door panel will just slide down in there and there won't be any interference. All right, so that's what it's looking like from the inside. I'll go around the other side and open it up and show you what that looks like. Okay, so I have to lean this back a little bit. Originally, I was just going to let it float all the way out to the front here like that, but that is going to rub the seat over there. As you can see, it actually probably already did back in the days when it was in the Camaro. So I'm going to have to probably lean this back, which means I'll probably have to take this section of it down around to the curve here and attach this section to the door panel so that I could taper it, because if I taper it and leave it on the door, obviously I'm not going to be able to slide the wider part down from the top into the to this little hook down here that holds the whole mess up. Anyway, that's what I got going on here. At least this gives me an idea right now, which my primary job is to find out, you know, how I'm going to attach those rods to the door handle. So I'll be messing with that next before this is purely decorative, so I'll get back to that later. All right, a little change of plans here. I'm going to put a flange on the bottom here attached to the door, and I'm going to attach this piece to the door panel itself, because I didn't want to see two seams here, and I think I may end up putting the panel in front and screwing it to this. I haven't made up my mind on that one yet, but I'm going to attach it to this panel, and because I have to taper this from 0 to this depth over here, and also I need to be able to take the whole thing off, on and off, straight off, instead of pulling it up and out in order to get all of these. I've got to make brackets for this to bolt to, and I've got to make a bracket for this to bolt to against the door here, and sliding it up is not an option really. It's got to start hooking on stuff. Also, I want to be able to drop it down and roll it in case there's an issue with the rods coming across, sliding this thing down in this pocket here like this that I've got going on. I mean, it looked pretty slick in the beginning, but you know, it's not practical as far as putting the panel on and off. Anyway, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to do like I did on the Chargers, put a little flange on the bottom so I could still sit it in its location, and it's not an issue as far as you know, these things are tough to, since I don't have the clips to hold it in on the bottom, you know, it's a little difficult to position it. Anyway, that's what I'll be up to. Just going to make that modification before I go on to the next step. All right, with the this lower door panel turned upside down, I'm in the process of making a paper pattern for a metal brace that's going to attach to the door itself. First, I'll attach it. I'll put some weld nuts on where you see these bolts just push through these holes here. The holes are basically one hole here on the pull, that plastic substructure there. Then you got two more holes down at the bottom here where you'd pull the door shut on the armrest. And so this is going to have to be probably 70 thousandths. It'll get trimmed away, but I'll leave enough protruding up above. You can see where the crease is, so that I'll be able to bolt the piece to the back of the door panel, put the door panel in to its location, and then I'll be able to tack weld the top edge of this bracket in order for me to attach it to the door. And then I'll pull the door panel back off and permanently attach the metal bracket to the door, to the inner door over there. So all of this will have a nice solid mount point. Anyway, that's where I'm at with that. All right, so I've gone ahead and I've added that the rim to the bottom of the door. And you can see it tapers up now on either side. So I went ahead and did that, and then I temporarily have just some brass 1/4-20s screwed into this steel bracket. You can see these brass ones. I need to get Phelps heads because it's kind of dangerous trying to screw in with a flat head. Anyway, I need some 1/4-20s that'll go into these bolts. This is primered on the back side. This will go in, screwed through the bottom rim here. I got some holes pre-drilled on this, and it'll sit on this little ledge that I put on the door over here, and I'll screw it through those 3 holes in the bottom. And once that's up there, then with the plate held up, I will screw the plate to the door over there. Then I'll take the door panel back off, and I'll proceed to weld this up, and that'll give me some pretty good mounting spots. So when you grab the handle, the door panel doesn't rip off. Anyway, that's where I'm at with that. Okay, the tedious job of putting the door panel on, taking it back off a million times is what I'm in the middle of right now, trying to get everything to lay flat, and for all of these bolt ups for the door handle to all line up. And then I have to establish the location of the pull handle, which I started using this as a register. But as you can see over here, this is the line where the dashboard comes in, and I'll be relieving this and creating just a flat panel so there's no interference, because there's a fuse box on the side there, and I don't want anything to be forced up against that spot. There is probably about 1/2 an inch, but I don't want that in the way anyway. Just a little, I digress, as they say. But now that I have, over here, buddy. Anyway, now that I have this plate established, which took me a bunch of times of remaking this, I had to re-establish these 2 holes based on the fact that once I got this hole aligned and everything mounted, these 2 holes are slightly offset, probably about half the width of the hole. So I had to weld those 2 holes up and then go right down through the handle itself and put a couple of pilot holes, and then take the whole mess off, weld it up. I've added counter flanges so that it can be screwed to the door here, and the only reason is there's a bolt up for a window track right on the back side here, so I could either make a large clearance here for that bolt up, or just be able to take this plate off in case there's anything else under there that I've forgotten. Here's a good thing about not getting rid of the Buick donor car, and go over there and look inside the doors and see what any kind of interference, because this is very confusing, all of these tracks for the window and the way that latching system has worked, and how the rods run for that particular car, and how the Camaro stuff is going to work on this door. At any rate, I'm trying to establish the mounting point for this pull handle that goes here. That's this piece here. This goes somewhere in this void over here. Again, I'll have to create a plate that goes over here that screws on, because this is an access hole for putting the glass in. So what I needed to do is, again, good thing not to throw things away before you're ready to. I want to get things out of my way, but at the same time, it's always good to be able to go back and reference. Now that I have these two holes on that plate established, here's the mounting hole for this piece. It shuffles in underneath here and actually rivets through there, but this clamps to this face here. So I can make a jig for this side here and recreate this entire area here, relationship to where this handle hooks up, and then everything should line up on that door, knock on wood. Anyway, that's a long rambling speech, but that's what I'm up to. Everything is not straightforward when you're doing this door stuff, because something could get in the way very quickly with a mismatch like this. But I've been fortunate so far. This has been a whole lot easier than my other projects, where I was trying to introduce frameless glass into a car that had a vent window, and all kinds of stuff was happening in there. All right, so using the Camino door, I've come up with this aluminum template that basically gives me the location of these openings relative to this bolt down point for the armrest. So hopefully that relationship is close enough. And I've put another plate here that's screwed on. I'll add another bunch of screws later when I find out whether or not this is the proper location for everything. But for right now, I've just got to replicate these openings. And this one's a little tricky because it's going to have a little step up for this. I don't know, where is it at? Oh, I'm not here. The door lever has to slip behind here, and then clamp onto there. And then rivet. Anyway, that's what I'm up to now. So I was getting a little ahead of myself over here, starting to deal with the pull rod. Then I realized I got to make sure that my door panel fits on, and this is in the right spot relative to the armrest when everything's tied down. So with the stop, put the door panel back on and see if that all works, and if it's all, if there's any adjustments that have to be made. There's only 2 screws in that panel right now. So I've got to take this rod also later on, and I've already started to bend it in. I straightened it out, take the kinks out from the Camino rod, and start to look at the way that it's a combination of the El Camino rod and of the Camino rod. The El Camino rod comes in real close and then comes to the outside of the door on this side and then pops back through. So it actually comes down this little chase on the El Camino, and the door handle is down here. So you can see this little chase right here, and there's a little rubber grommet that the rods rest in. And there's a little pivot piece right in here where you have your little button over here. Well, we won't have that in this car because it has a little slide button for your door lock. Anyway, I started to mess with it a little bit, and I said, wait, I have to make sure that's in the right spot, because I don't want to unbend this and then rebend it any more times than I have to, otherwise it'll be brittle. So I got to get this all together. Now the Camino basically is going to have to come up on an angle, so I'm going to have to create another chase right here where it goes through and then it hooks onto the top. There's a little catch you can see on the other side. That red piece right there? That's on the back side. So it has to feed up through the back side right over here. And luckily, like I said, I also have the Buick out there to reference. It does all of the tracking still in it, minus the glass, so I can see where everything is that these rods have to bypass, make sure that they're clear once the window glass goes back in here, that's not an issue. Anyway, I'm gonna get this door panel back on. Okay, with the door panel back on, handle works pretty good, so good to go with the location there. Got a couple screws down in there holding this all on, another screw up through here into this plate right here. And so I just got to get the rods bent up and lengthened to the proper length. Probably got to add a couple, maybe an inch or so to them to get them to reach this new location. A little bit of difference in the height of latch relative to this, so I got to make the bends right so that it moves back and forth pretty parallel, because this is the locking mechanism here where this rod goes right in here. You can see how short it is. This should be all the way over to here, same for this one. It has to be able to, you know, go back and forth in this direction pretty smoothly. Anyway, that's where I'm at with this. All right, in order for this rod to fit in back behind this handle properly, it's got to go in through this hole, be bent, but I needed to put this little recess in the panel to match how all this aspects together here, and also put a place for the little rubber mount that keeps the two rods separated. I got lucky with the top one. I'll see how much I have to fiddle with the lock mechanism itself, but just I was able to rebend the rod after I made this channel, cut this channel in here, and put the same access holes in relative to what they are. Now this has all been rebent so that it accommodates this door, this is pretty much where there's an opening over there to come back in. So a lot of rebending, and that's popped into the lock right now. And so I also did the modifications to this panel right here. So this is where the lock button, sliding lock button, fits into this recess. It's attached to the door panel itself. So at any rate, I got to try and get that worked in there. It's going to be a little bit more fiddly than this, because I got to put the door panel in and try to get the rod in and down in the hole and connect it up to the latch with the door panel on there. At least it's only a half panel, but still it's a little bit of a pain. I'm trying to rebend the rod, make sure that it all works and it's the right aspect, because it's got to be, you know, parallel here, you know, with the ground or at the bottom of the door, so that this operates. Can't be up on an angle or anything like that. I was anticipating to have to, you know, lengthen this out, but by the time I was done, I ended up with just the right amount of bends for this to work. Actuates just fine. And this crosses here. It's got a little sleeve. I got to put these sleeves back over top of the rod where it goes through here, and I'm probably going to put just a little gusset here, just to keep this, because you know, you have a tendency to pull on this knob, and that's kind of a weak point right there. So anyway, it's connected, and then I've been in the car, and it opens the door just fine. So I'm going to move on and get this bottom one in. All right, after a lot of back and forth, and I've got the rods in, and then put the sock back on this one, but that's not a problem right now, obviously. It's not the final fit, or the final assembly, I should say. I probably need to put a sock around here where it might have a little bit of chattering going on and around in there. Maybe I'll just put a little piece of Velcro or something back there, keep that from chattering. But anyway, this is the one, and then this is the lock. Lock, unlock, and that's it. Hopefully there won't be any interference with anything inside. I kept it all in this plane that already exists, as far as it's not going past this depth over here. Everything's pretty flush with the outside. Kept the rods on the outside as far back as I could go, which is what the G-body has. And this is a real pain trying to get this little piece on here after everything's got to weave everything. Got to weave this, pull this out, weave that part in, and then try and snap this onto this rod here. You got to feed it in there. It's a real pain in the butt. I mean, it's easier now that I got the top part of this, but once I put the top part of this panel on and I'm trying to feed it all down at once, it's going to be a little bit nightmarish, but that's what happens when you try to be fancy. You got to pay. Anyway, back to work. All right, so door panel's on, the lower portion anyway, and this is the most important part, because it establishes the armrest, and we've got the handles working good. This is the lock mechanism. That's working pretty good. So yeah, that finishes up the latch system on this side. So it's rinse and repeat over on the other side. The good part is I've got some better direction as to what to do, and got some patterns. So we'll proceed with that next week. But this is the end of this video. I'd like to thank everybody for watching and hanging in there. I appreciate everybody, and I will see you on the next one.